Welcome back to Dishelved with Adam White. This week we're going to do the obligatory Lord of the Rings examination. This is a brand new edition that just came out. It's the full book in one volume. It's illustrated by J.R.R. Tolkien himself. Very nice copy, very new. There's been tons of editions. It's actually sealed in plastic, which I'm going to leave it in for the time being, just to keep it in pristine condition. I just reread the original paperbacks that I've got, so I don't need to read it right now, so I'm going to keep it nice and in good condition. Um, and this is a really nice edition. It's got Elvish script on the sides and colored sides of the pages. It's just a really nice presentation of the book. If you can get it still, I would highly recommend this version. Um, Also, everybody knows it's a story of Frodo, Samwise, Merry, and Pippin, and their quest to return the One Ring to Mordor to get it destroyed uh, and defeat Sauron. It's usually split into 3 volumes when they do the book: The Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and Return of the King. That's the way I've always read it in the 3 editions. I've got a set that has all 3 of those plus The Hobbit, which is the prequel. Um, in Fellowship of the Ring, Gandalf sends the hobbits on a journey to destroy the One Ring, and they get into a lot of adventure on their way to meet Aragorn. Uh, After a long trip through the woods, they do a lot of things. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that here in just a few minutes. Uh, and they end up running from the Nazgul, and they eventually find their way to the Prancing Pony Inn and meet with Aragorn. Uh, they travel there then to the Council of Elrond. That's where they create the Fellowship of the Ring. Um, and the Fellowship then journeys. It's fraught with danger, and they fight orcs and uh, end up having a bad time of it towards the end of the book, the end of that one of the series, because it's all really one book, like this volume. Um, in the Two Towers, it's kind of strange because it's split into 2 halves. The first half is the story of the 3 hunters, Aragorn, Gimli, and Legolas, as they search for Merry and Pippin. And it's also about the riders of Rohan and King Theoden and his, I don't know if you could say, possession by Grima Wormtongue, who has poisoned his mind, and they try to get him back on the straight and narrow, and his niece and nephew Eowyn and Eomer. Eowyn's a good female character. She's not used nearly enough in this book, but she is still a really good character. Um, then the second half, and that all that goes on in the first half of the book, and the second half of the book is Frodo and Sam and Gollum and the stuff that they get into. I'm going to talk about that in a few minutes too. Uh, it They deal with all sorts of issues. They come in contact with Faramir, who is Boromir's brother. Boromir was one of the original Fellowship of the Ring, uh, and they run into the Southrons and uh, Shelob, the terrible giant spider, and uh, they just run into a lot of trouble getting to Mordor because they've gone on their own. In Return of the King, major battles. They go to Gondor. They have this army of the dead. and it's the battle against Sauron's forces. They fight the Nazgul, they fight uh, orcs and trolls and just everything you can imagine. And it's a major, major battle. And then you follow the aftermath of that battle and see if Frodo can actually return the One Ring to the, really, it's a volcano where they originally forged it so that he can destroy the ring. Will he make it? Will he survive? You don't know, but Sam's there with him till the end, and Gollum, who also wants the ring, so they've got that problem as well. Again, most of you watching this have probably read it or at least seen the movies. Um, uh, One thing I want to say, and people might get on to me because of this, I hesitate to look at the comments. If I actually got them turned on, my first couple won't let me turn on the comments at the bottom. So I don't, I'm new at this and I'm still trying to figure out how to get that done. But they, I think they're turned on by this point. Uh, but I think the book could have used a few edits. Um, the Hobbit's journey and the Fellowship of the Ring before they get to the Council of Elrond, I think goes on a little too long. I think they meet Tom Bombadil, and I think the story could survive without Tom Bombadil. And I know there's probably a lot of Tom Bombadil fans out there going, "What are you talking about? We can't get rid of Tom Bombadil," but I think we could. Uh, it was just kind of an aside to the journey and really didn't have any bearing on the whole rest of the story. And it took up quite a lot of time, and they did some songs and just I just think that it could survive without the Tom Bombadil stuff. And some of the other rest of their journey could be whittled down a little bit, and I think it would just run a lot more smoothly as a book if they cut that down a little bit. The next thing is the Two Towers. I told you that it's split into two parts. The first half, which is the Three Hunters and Rohan, and the second half, which is Frodo and Sam and Gollum. The first half is amazing. I wouldn't change a thing about it. I really enjoyed the whole part. Uh, the second part's what I have issue with. When you have just Frodo and Sam and Gollum and all their journeys, it gets a little tedious at times because you don't have any counterpoint to what they're doing, and theirs just seems like a little bit slower in terms of the action than what you got in the first half of the book. I think the way is not necessarily changing a lot of the stuff that goes on with them or editing it out. I think the book would have been better if they would have alternated chapters and had, a chapter of Rohan and then a chapter of Frodo and Sam. I think they could have done that a little bit better in terms of the editing that way if they would have had kind of, again, alternating chapters. Um, it, uh, I think it just would have been paced better. Uh, as it is when you've got the two chunks, the second half just isn't exciting. It just, to me, isn't as exciting as the first half. And you get built up the whole first half with all this excitement, and then you get to the second half and it's not quite as exciting as it. Return of the King pretty well works the way it is. I wouldn't change any of it. Uh, Again, it's all one volume in this version, and you can get other versions that are all one volume. Um, and it's fun to read it as one volume too, because it wasn't really three books. It was so large originally that, and still today, that the paperback companies wanted to publish it in 3 volumes because they just didn't like publishing one big book like that. Any more fantasy is all huge books. I mean, like 1,000-page books, 1,200-page books, fantasy series 10 in a row, Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, uh, who was actually finished by Brandon Sanderson, which is, I still haven't decided whether I'm going to read that or not. Uh, I was disappointed. I mean, I was just sad when Robert Jordan died. I hated that. Um, but it was a shame also that he never got to finish The Wheel of Time. But I mean, you've got other ones, Eric Stevenson, or Steven Erickson. I always get that mixed up. Uh, and he's got 10 volumes of the Malazan series, and I'm getting ready to read that. I'm really looking forward to that. I've heard good things about it. I also want to talk about the Lord of the Rings movies because Peter Jackson really did an adaptation worthy of the book. Um, I'm talking also about the extended versions, which are about 4 hours apiece. I consider it like the 3 books are all really one book. I consider the 3 movies as all one really long 12-hour movie. Uh, it's excellent. Could be the best movie of all time. Really, really enjoyed it. I think they did a lot of things in the editing of that movie that would have helped the book because they didn't split. It would have been disastrous to have split the Two Towers into half with Rohan and half with Sam and Frodo. And some of that stuff with Sam and Frodo and even ended up in Return of the King. So um, they did I thought, a much better job editing, and they just were excellent. The women characters like Eowyn and Arwen were fleshed out more, uh, which is nice because just back in the when this was written, female characters just weren't something that authors did. You'd have them as wives or mothers or potential love interests, but they just didn't get fleshed out very well as characters. Um, there's character moments and development in the film that there's not in this. Most notably, I would say Gimli and Legolas, and their kind of friendly, who can kill the most bad guys, uh, where they kept track of that. That was a funny little aside. Uh, a lot of the action scenes built on what you can show in a movie uh, that they didn't show in the book. The battle scenes in the book are more kind of overarching of what's going on, but they had little moments of it in the movies that were really good. Again, I'm consulting my notes. Uh, it was it essentially, the Lord of the Rings created modern fantasy. It's one of the most important books of the 20th century. Uh, Fantasy came about really with Robert E. Howard earlier in the pulps when he created Conan and that kind of stuff. And there was lots of imitators of that. And so, I mean, there was some fantasy before it, but in terms of epic fantasy, where you have these gigantic books, um, Tolkien created that. And it's a huge market now. And really, it's all owed to him. And this edition is really neat, really nice, solid edition. Love the markings. It comes with maps and illustrations by Tolkien himself. I don't know how many other editions have done that, but I don't think very many, if any at all. And if you haven't read this book, you need to read this book, whether you read it all as one or in a new version like this, which is really nice, or if you read the uh, set of the paperbacks of the three different books that are really one book. But again, one of the most important books of the 20th century. Highly recommend it, and definitely check it out. It's worth your time. Whether you're into fantasy or not, it's just one of those books that you should read at least once in your life. So thanks for joining me at the Heap again this weekend. Or, well, Thursday is usually when this goes up, so it's not weekend yet. But thank you for joining me, and have a good week, and I hope to see you next week.